Hi, welcome to our daily encounter. Today we are continuing the story of Joseph, and basically two things stand out in his story. As a person is reading it, you notice the hardships that Joseph endured. Uh, think about how when most kids are still in high school, Joseph gets sold into slavery. He's pulled away from his dad, that he loves very much, pulled away from his house, everything that he's familiar with, and he has to go into a foreign land and to live as a slave. And even though he does get put in charge of Potiphar's house, at the end of the day he was still a slave. And then he's falsely accused, thrown into prison, and once again, even though he's put in charge of the prison, he's still at the end of the day a prisoner. And Joseph went through some very, very hard times. And yet as we read his story, we never see anything indicating that he was bitter about what he had to go through, that he blamed God, blamed his brothers, blamed anything else. He just seems to kind of go with the flow. As one thing happens after the other, he just kind of stays even keel and just kind of goes through it all. And we have to stand amazed at how it was that he was able to endure such things and to endure them so gracefully. And so that's the first thing that stands out. The second thing that stands out is how much love he shows towards his brothers. You think about all the hard things that he went through. He could have very easily blamed it on his brothers, right? Because they were the ones that kind of caused it all. They sold him into slavery, which brought him to slavery, brought him to imprisonment, or eventually brought him into imprisonment. And he could have very well held a grudge against his brothers. He could have hated them. He could have plotted against them, how to seek vengeance on them once he had the opportunity. But he doesn't do that. One of the chapters that we read in chapter 45, we see him actually showing such love and affection towards his brothers. Where we might expect him to use his power to retaliate against them, it's very evident that he loves them very much. And as we read the story about him hiding the money in the sacks, putting the silver cup in Benjamin's sack, doing all these things, we think he's kind of messing with them. But I firmly believe that what he was doing in those circumstances was just ensuring an opportunity to see his brothers again. By holding their brother back, he would know that they would come back, and he'd be able to see them again. He loved his family very much. He wanted to see them as much as he could, and he just constantly shows them love. And once again, we have to stand amazed and say, how could he have so much affection and so much love towards people that treated him so badly and led him to so many hardships in his life? Well, we get the answer to that in chapter 45 when he tells his brothers not to be concerned about whether he was going to be mad at them or not. In verse 5, it starts, "Now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me here to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are still 5 years which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Now therefore it was not you who sent me here, but God, and he has made me father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his household, and ruler over all the land of Egypt." Joseph was able to endure all the hardships he endured, and he was able to show love towards his brothers in the way that he did, because he didn't look at the circumstances themselves. He didn't look at just what was happening to him. He looked at a God who was in control of it all. He said, "It wasn't you guys that sent me here, it was God. God was behind it all. God is the ultimate and supreme being who controlled all these situations so that I could be in this position to preserve life and to preserve for our family a remnant so that life can continue. Joseph had or used his faith, utilized his faith to allow him to endure hardship and to show love to others. And I think that that can be applied to our lives as well. When we go through trials and difficulties in this life, it's always good to see beyond just the circumstances. Whenever we're going through something hard, difficult, it's real easy for us to just focus on that thing and trying to figure out, how we can get out of it, or feeling sorry for ourselves because we're having to endure it. But if we're going to be like Joseph and endure as Joseph did, we need to look beyond them and say, okay, what is God trying to do in this? I know that God is supreme. I know that He's in control. Now, what is He doing? What is God leading me to? It could be that He's trying to teach me a lesson. It could be that He's trying to build character in me. It might be that He's trying to build trust and faith in me. It might be that He's trying to lead me to a better place. Who knows? But we have to always look beyond and know that God is in control. God knows what He's doing, and He cares for us. And He's going to lead us into something good. We may not see it now. It might be after the occurrence. Joseph is looking back at these circumstances, and in retrospect, he's able to say, yeah, God was in all this. God was able to, or God did this so that I could be in this position. And whenever we go through hardships, we have to recognize the fact that one day we may be at the end of that hardship looking back saying, wow, look what God was able to accomplish because of what I went through. And even if we're not able to do that in this life, when we pass on, when we're in heaven, perhaps we'll be able to look back on our lives and say, wow, now I understand. Now I understand why God had me go through what I had to go through. But it also helps us in loving others, as mentioned. When people come to us and they speak harshly to us, or they treat us in the wrong way, or maybe they even falsely accuse us, whatever they do, again, our faith can help us endure those things. Because we can also look beyond that person and say, you know what, maybe God is trying to work something out in me through this person. God can use both the good and the bad. He used the bad in the brothers to bring out good for Joseph and his family. And God might be using that difficult person in your life right now, that difficult personality that you're having to deal with, to work out something good in you. Maybe to make you stronger, to make you, to help you have more patience, more love for people. You never know what God is working through those difficult people in your life. But when you look at it in that way, and you look at it from the bigger picture, it opens you up to be able to love that person and recognize, and not just put all of the guilt, or not all, or yeah, don't put all the blame on that person. Don't try to retaliate against them or have vengeance, but just recognize, hey, maybe this is an instrument that God is using to better me. If we take these two approaches, or if we have this one approach to these two different situations, I think we will always come out the better. This is the way of faith. This is the way that looks beyond what our eyes can see. So let's try to do that. Let's try to look at the God beyond the circumstances, look at the God beyond the people in our lives, and understand that we're serving Him and that He's working for our good in this life. And so let's meditate on that. I do thank you guys for watching the video. I love you guys. Can't wait to see you here again tomorrow. God bless.